It's that time of the year again, to conclude my case videos with a bang, the tier list. And this year, I've seen even more cases than last year, so I'm going to be a little shorter on each brand, otherwise this video will be over 40 minutes. If you do want to see every detail though, be sure to check out my dedicated videos. First up, the Samsung cases. And I wasn't all that blown away by these this year, but I must admit they are very interesting. The Shield case was one such example. It feels like a silicone case with a different finish, one that is less grippy. The sides are reinforced with a plastic transparent layer, which I didn't see from the pictures and looks awesome. This is also what gives the case its strength, because otherwise it would have been very flexible. Good front protection and the overall refined feel is back too. The stripes on the back that are there mostly for grip don't work at all. Therefore, I'd rank this one D tier. I did say I was gonna rank this one low on my tier list, and indeed that's the case. The View wallet is just not up to par with some other bookcases out there. Yes, it has the cool look-through window, but once again, no way of keeping that front flap closed. If you hold it upside down, it will just hang there, like a sad little case, for which you will pay a premium. It does complement the shape of the S24 Ultra, as if you don't really have a case on there. At least, I can appreciate the fact that it feels really good in the hand. The grippy texture on there is nice too, clicky aluminium buttons and cut out for the phone speaker, so you could make a call while having this case closed. E tier. The standing grip case did surprise me the most. It's really a comfortable and grippy case. Of course, the whole shtick with this one is the kickstand / grip on the back. And it does work, but only horizontally though. No vertical kickstand on this one. And where I'd prefer to use one finger in the grip, here I could easily fit 4. I can't help but feel it's a little awkward. Not really a grip, but neither a kickstand. I also have worries for its durability. Maybe over time it will just hang out there too, like the front flap on the View wallet case. Put this one in C tier. A newcomer this year is the Thinborne case. I did not expect to like this one so much, but when I compared them to the other aramid fiber contenders, it was pretty clear to me that even though Pitaka stands out on their design, and Benks has the cooler camera bump, Thinborne definitely is the winner. Full side protection, with only a cutout for the buttons, the biggest front bezel, which inspires confidence in its ability to still protect your phone, and it's so thin, there's really no need to make it any thinner in my opinion. Very strong MagSafe, easy yet snug fit, and the most minimal camera bump. S tier. Moving on to Spigen. The 01 is the first one to be rated. I like this case a lot. And on the S24 Ultra, the fit is also very good. And you know how we do it by now. This one right here is the non-MagSafe version. But of course, except for the magnet ring, everything else is the same. I just cannot get enough of that awesome 3D design. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera, but it's partly transparent. It gives an illusion of depth. More than enough room on the S Pen cutout, and also for the charge port, so it can accommodate third-party USB-C cables. And it still feels like a clear case as far as the grippiness goes. A tier. Then, the Enzo Aramid. This case is just as good as the 01, and it improves upon that with an even more premium-ish feel with the Aramid fiber. But also with these silver-colored aluminium buttons, for example. It goes so well with that black aramid too. The case feels refined and is also very comfortable to hold. Snug fit, but easy to remove and install. They solved the camera bump with this black plate. And although it looks good, I would love to see something more unique. The front bezel is equal on every side, which is something I love to see too. Especially with that flat display now. This is also one of the most strongest cases I've ever seen over the years. You cannot bend it or anything. Yet it feels like it would absorb falling impacts and not break because it's solid. We've got ourselves the second S tier. The Neo Hybrid is a good case too. This one reminds me of the Mag Armor with strong sides. As you can see, the sides are reinforced with this harder material. And you'd think it's some kind of aluminium or metal the way it's colored, but it's actually polycarbonate. No matter, because it still feels strong and it will give the impression of holding the phone itself. Because of the two materials, it's also very grippy. Buttons are soft like silicone and clicky to press. And even though it may require a little readjusting here and there if you put this case on, it's still very easy. B tier. The Slim Armor MagFit was also a new model for me, and I love that because, as you can imagine, I've seen most or all cases already, which can make yearly reviews a bit boring. First impressions, I love the camera bump design. It looks very unique and classy. Finally, a decent kickstand too. Not sure what to think of the fact that the circle in the middle is lower than the backplate. It's sort of exactly where your natural hand position is when holding this phone. So it's not in the way or anything, but it just feels odd. This one does have MagSafe, which does not influence the S Pen in any way whatsoever. And the buttons are very clicky, but also comfortable to use. They are big and easy to find. Once again though, the body looks like metal. But it's polycarbonate too, just a bit pricey at 55 USD. B tier. And just like my dedicated video, that's a nice transition towards the actual tough armor. To be short about it, I don't like this one, but there seem to be a lot that do. It cracks at every touch, the kickstand is the Temu variant of the previous case, and the buttons aren't as tactile or clicky. And even though it features a strong MagSafe ring, no interference whatsoever with the S Pen, which is a good thing. It also does have enough space on both the USB-C port and the S Pen. It's not a 100% bad, but there sure are better ones out there for this price. And in this list, I'll rank it E tier. Then, the thin fit. The material choice is awesome, grippy enough, yet not annoyingly over-textured to achieve it. Matter of fact, it's as smooth as silk. I called it the tailored suit for your phone back then, and it still holds true. I just wanted a bigger camera bump on this one, and sadly they've chosen those micro rings on there too. Very clicky buttons, good cutouts, and the front bezel is more than enough, especially for a minimalist case. It does swell up at the top and bottom though, so it's not as high on the sides. And at only $16.99, this is a very good case. B tier. Then the Slim Armor. I cannot say anything bad about it now. They fixed the overall cracking and cheap feeling vibe that it had previously. It now has clicky yet a little harder to press buttons. Yes, the camera bump has those micro rings again, but it feels like an overall decent case now. I'm not sure how useful it would be, but I can see its potential now. Whereas back then, I definitely could not. D tier. The optic armor is in the same category as this one. Yes, it's gotten stronger, the cracking sound is definitely gone and it's not as loose as before. But it's still gimmicky in my opinion. And where I first thought it was for privacy reasons, to close off the camera or anything, it's actually just an extra protection thing, where you slide this plate in front of the camera to protect it against the elements. It clicks into place, and the texture on the backplate underneath feels very good. Grippy. Pretty flexible case though. D tier. We also saw the Cryo Armor, which is still not as good looking as I hoped from the images. It may be personal taste, but I think it's very underwhelming in design, but also as an overall case. It's not as comfortable, the stripes on the side aren't grippy or comfortable, and I don't like the camera bump design as that's one of the lowest effort ones for the S24 Ultra. Fit is pretty good though, and it does have clicky buttons as well. E tier. The rugged armor gives that same energy, the underwhelming energy. Not a bad case, but it just doesn't excel in anything. The design is mid, the camera bump has those micro rings, the buttons are clicky but not easy to press, and the texture on the side is just not good. It also is a little harder to remove from the phone, so the fit isn't great either. E tier. And last but not least, the Ultra Hybrid Frosted. The backplate does look very good with that frosted design, but it's a little bluish tinted. And for my color S24 Ultra, that just wasn't a good match. That's all subjective though. The camera bump looks different on first glance, but it's not. It might even be a little slippier than the 01 because those frosted backplates always feel a little softer. Put this one in C tier. Moving on to UAG. First up, the new one called the Plasma XDE. The body of the case is pretty much identical to the Monarch. A few differences here and there, but it's mostly design. The slimmed down sides are better on the Monarch though, since that area that's slimmed down on the Plasma is very small, making the Monarch easier to grab. Available in MagSafe and non-MagSafe, and where I complained about the recycling of the MagSafe design on the back, apparently they did that because they were going to release one with MagSafe too. I judged too early there. On the clear backplate, which feels like a grippy clear case, you will also find a hexagon pattern from the sides that sort of fade out. Awesome design. A tier. The Plyo case. The case feels just as grippy as always. The fit is definitely on the tighter end this year though, because it's not impossible to remove, but requires a little more effort. The buttons are not as clicky though, and that's funny because they used to be. At the power button, it's almost laughably bad this year. Still awesome protection though, and still a big fan of this case. But like all clear cases with soft or semi-soft edges, there's a chance of yellowing. D tier. Now, I have been hating on the changes made to the Civilian too, because it used to be my absolute favorite. This year though, the Civilian is made from that same softer material like before, and not the plasticky detour they made a while back. The buttons are very clicky too and are nicely done. The orange details with that green go very nicely still, and if it wasn't for the fact that I use a magnetic car holder, this one would be my go-to now. I also think the 2-layered camera bump design looks awesome. The fit is excellent, easy to use, and a snug fit here too. My only feedback here would be to make the S Pen cutout a little bigger, for easy access. B tier. Then the Metropolis LT. Compared to the ones we've seen so far, this one feels a lot slimmer. Grippy texture on the back, and it looks very good as well. And I once again love the overall hexagon trend. On the sides it has a slimmed down part as well, which makes it very easy to find the buttons without looking, but even though clicky, the volume buttons are a little harder to press. It also features a strong MagSafe without interference, but once you put a MagSafe accessory on there, the interference is back. This case is also a good choice if you want a slightly rounded feel instead of the mostly blocky shapes UAG features. B tier. The Monarch is once again a very good looking case, especially with the edges in the backplate and the carbon fiber design in between it. I also like the screws on there, which make it look tough. Compared to the XTE Plasma though, the buttons are actually tinier, and I prefer thicker buttons because it's not like the Monarch is a slim case at all. So go all in. I only wish they made the bottom a little softer, since now it's a little sharp here and there, especially where the USB-C port is at. And sadly, that's exactly where your pinky finger supports the case. C tier. Now if you have the Pathfinder in your hands, after using the Monarch, you will feel the difference right away. It feels slimmer. The buttons here get the award for the best UAG buttons, because they are all clicky and easy to find. I even think they made the sides a softer material here, like the story on the Civilian, because I recall those being plasticky on the iPhone as well. So that in and of itself is a huge upgrade. MagSafe is present too, but not the same strength as the others. Weak in comparison, but overall not bad. C tier. Now I only featured the Mag XT from Subcase on the channel, and that's not because it was the only case I got my hands on. I got sent a few more by Subcase, yet I didn't really come around to making a dedicated video. No matter, because I'll rank them here. First up, the UB Pro. This huge case is definitely not for everybody, since it makes the already big S24 Ultra look and feel like a literal brick. But to be fair, you won't ever have to worry about damaging this one, because you simply cannot, no matter how hard you try. It has one of those built-in kickstands which don't feel too durable, and it comes with this belt clip holster, but it almost looks like you have a tablet hanging on your hip. And it's not comfortable while walking, because the weight of that phone slaps against your leg the whole time. It has those dust protection covers, and it even comes with a front piece as well, which is relatively easy to install. But it wasn't easy on the black version here. There it was a bit of a hassle. They also recommend to heat these things up to get them off more easily, but that's just not something I would ever want to do. I'm about making it as easy as possible to remove a case, so it would be weird for me to recommend doing that. Still, even though it might not be for me, there's still a market for these cases. D tier. I also got to look at their pink ombre eye blazing case, which features that same camera protection door like the Mag XT, and it comes with a front piece as well. So it's basically a mix between the Mag XT and the UE Pro in my opinion, with a sleeker design. Not too much differences here, and I felt like this one wasn't excelling in either category. It was also a fingerprint magnet on the plastic back. Not a bad case per se, just not something new. So I'll have to put this one in a lower class than the UE Pro. E tier. Then lastly, this one is my absolute favorite when it comes to the more bulky looking cases. This bulky yet sleek feeling case will protect your S24 Ultra for sure. And not only in the traditional ways. Sure, it has tons of corner protection, a strong feeling backplate made of polycarbonate, but it also features one of the most unique camera bumps on the market right now. This zinc alloy camera bump protection plate can be opened fully while using the camera, but of course it can stay like that too, since the hinge is a proper one. But when you're done, or you want to maximize the protection level, close the vault door. They made it with a slim side profile, which is excellent for holding the phone, and along with that, very comfortable clicky buttons. S tier. Moving on to Pitaka. This year I've only seen the Mag Easy 4, the sunset version and the regular black one. You'd think that these are identical, but I'd prefer the sunset one because the texture on that one is much grippier. Other than that though, they are identical. The fit is much better this year and it doesn't even need the cutouts at the edges for release. I also like their new camera bump design, which is much better than previous year, and even that design was already unique. It does come with MagSafe and it does interfere with the S Pen, but only when it's attached to something, which is normal. There's just something about these minimalist cases that make them desirable, even though if we're talking protection, they don't really offer all that much. B tier. Otterbox made an appearance this year too. Sadly for them though, it could have been better. Let's start off with the best one. And that's the Defender. And no, not the XT, because that one is definitely a whole different story. The regular Defender is easy to install, has pretty clicky buttons, not amazingly or anything, but much better, relatively speaking of course. This case offers much more protection than needed for most. The camera bump looks neat with that glossy part, it's deep enough so that it doesn't need an edge on there anymore, and the front bezel is very thick and good in height, but only on the top and bottom. The sides are comparable to a minimalist case if we're talking height. In width, not so much. It's of course a three-part design, inner case, front piece and the thick rubbery outer shell. It all makes for an excellent case, which isn't removed in 3 seconds, but it's all in all pretty easily removed if you wanted to. B tier. The XT here is the clear version. It does look very good with the clear back and makes for an excellent grip in combination with the rubbery sides. But, and once again, there is a big but, like I have encountered before with this case, on some models it's just a pain to install it. You have to place the front piece and then move the soft rubbery outer shell over it, but because the front piece is loose, it gets out, doesn't want to get tucked in, or it's just a very annoyingly time-consuming process. And because of that, I'll have to put this one in E tier. There's also the Asymmetry core case in the Carnival Night color. I picked this one up because it looked cool, but I regretted it instantly once I got it. Even though it may look cool, the recycled plastic bits in there are not just design. You can feel those too, which is pretty weird. Not really making it grippier at all, it just feels like your case has all kinds of small indents or damages. I must say, the case does feel really strong and I cannot find any sharp edges, even though it looks like cheapish recycled plastic. So on that part, I'm impressed. The fit is pretty good, a little harder in a good way. On the front, you can see the titanium color coming through, and especially where the buttons are located. It doesn't look great, even though it's a small detail. E tier because of the Carnival Night color. They also have the React case for your S24 Ultra. This one has a whole different fit, much easier and maybe a little too easy. The buttons aren't clicky either and make the buttons harder to press overall. On the front you can see the same titanium edge problem, and here it's even worse. Almost as if you bought the S23 Ultra case and not the S24 Ultra. The quality control could be much better here. It feels like a slimmer version of the Ringke Fusion Bolt, but that one still has the crown for sure. Check my detailed Otterbox video on why this one is so bad. We got our first F tier. I did check out mouse cases too this year and I wasn't disappointed. The Limitless 5.0 is still a solid option. The fit is good, the button's clicky, and it's overall a really grippy case to hold too. That's the material, but also the texture on the sides for sure. And it looks great doing it. The camera bump is still that P-shaped design here too, which isn't great looking, but the camera bump is deep enough to protect it. If you go for this one, make sure you get this speckled fabric one, and definitely not the bamboo version. Check the full video to find out why. B tier. The Clarity 2.0 is a near perfect case. That iridescent colorway just looks awesome every year and with almost every color phone. And this year with the titanium S24 Ultra, it looks great. The buttons are just as clicky as the Limitless 5.0, and here the front protection is even better, since now it's on both sides like that. This case really feels like the ultimate protection case. I really like this one. It feels like sort of rounded off Limitless, with a comfortable clear case spin to it. S tier. They also had a new one, at least to me, called the Ultra Thin. If you've seen my Aramid fiber video, you may have already heard it, but I really like this case. It has an excellent fit, very easy to install and deinstall, but also stays on there really good. Of course, the cutouts at the sides help with that, but mouse cases have been consistently good with their fit. It feels like the smaller brother of Magbak, and you'll find that in the Magnus as well, since these are all really good. A tier. I've also had the pleasure of checking out Caseology's cases. First up, the ATHLAX case. This one looks like a puffer jacket. Its design is therefore unique and I like it. It's stylish, yet it could work perfectly fine for a business meeting too. A mix between Kadabi and D-brand as far as material goes. Very affordable too. At $15.99, you cannot go wrong with these. And I featured this one in my top 10 and top 5, so you know it's good. S tier. The Parallax has a lot of similarities with the ATHLAX. The sides trade in the grippy material on the ATHLAX for a stripy, not so comfortable pattern. And they put this at the bottom part too, which isn't comfortable for your pinky finger. D tier. The Nanopop is also a very flashy looking case. Luckily, this one is on par with the ATHLAX. A little less grip because it doesn't have such aggressive textures to accomplish it, but it does have a dotted pattern on the side, and feels overall pretty grippy. It's also a nice material, and not plasticky, but also not silicone. Probably some sort of TPU, but it works out. It also has soft material on the bottom and no sharp feeling textures. It's just the weird colors for me. B tier. ZAGG Gear4 doesn't really like me, but I still like their cases, at least most of the time. Definitely not though with the iPhone 15 Pro. Here though, they are alright, just don't buy the Defense Folio. A very thin bookcase which doesn't impress. It feels like one of those knockoff market cases. The fit is horrendous, as you can just pull it out one side no problem. F tier for sure. They also have the Milan case. It's a very sleek feeling case, has very clicky buttons and the blue design, which just looks awesome, although very niche. It feels like a clear case on the sides as well, which results in a slippery feeling case because it's all plastic and no silicone was used there. And why did they make these little things on the back? They are so low, you cannot say it's to decrease wobble. Yeah, probably gonna have to put this one in E tier. Luckily, they have the locks as well. A very solid fit, even though easy to install and get off the phone. And the front bezel helps a lot with that, because it's thick too. Relatively good clicky buttons. They could still improve this one a lot though. The camera bump is much better, because the case is a lot bigger overall, so there's room for that in the backplate. I like this design element ZAGG put in there too. Makes it look unique still, even though it's pretty much the laziest forms of camera bumps out there with the whole cutout. They really saved themselves. B tier. The Denali works upon that with much clickier buttons, a thicker backplate, so even more bulk, but more rounding towards the edges, making it a comfortable to hold one. The camera bump is recessed even more because of it, so more protection. I must say, this color doesn't do it justice though, but it was sold out everywhere in black, so I still had to improvise to still get the dedicated video out there before March. What do you guys think? It's not horrible, but it's getting close. No issues on the bottom part too, no sharp edges either. On the front bezel, we can see that top and bottom height coming back, and even though minimal, the sides are higher than the screen at least. None of these feature MagSafe, by the way, if you were wondering. The Denali goes to C tier. Moving on to the Benks Armor Air case. It features very strong MagSafe magnets, no interference when nothing is attached, but normal interference when something is attached. Compared to the ultra thin aramid fiber cases, the only major difference is the camera bump, which is very big in comparison. It's also made from aluminium, which makes it feel very premium. It has cutouts at the top and bottom, but for my testing it wasn't worth anything at all. The fit could be a lot better this year. And just like I said in my best aramid fiber case video, that's funny because I'm used to Benks having the superior fit. C tier. They also have the thicker, more bulky version called the Benks Armor Pro. A solid choice as well. It features a small profile, especially from the sides. Doesn't look or feel like one of those bulkier choices, even though it gives a lot of the protection. On the front, it has those top and bottom bezels here too. The sides are also protected, even though very minimal. On the back, it features exactly the same camera bump like the Air version, and just like that one, it has the same set of powerful magnets as well, with very little interference though, probably because of the added bulk at the back. At the bottom, it features a big enough USB-C cutout, but for some reason they made the S Pen cutout smaller. And here it's not big enough. Cannot press it anymore with my finger. Very tactile and good buttons though. Yeah, could be better this year. D tier. Now ROKform is back too, with only one of their cases for the S24 Ultra. The rugged case. The case is very strong, on par with one of the strongest cases I've had my hands on. This means ultimate level of protection, and you'll notice that in its size too. It's huge. Like I said, you'll notice that in size, but also width and added weight. At 94 grams, it will add a lot to your already heavy S24 Ultra. The puck in the middle is for mounting it to a quad lock accessory. You can also exchange it for a magnetic one, which is included for extra pull. But I must say, the magnetic strength is already very good. And if you include the magnetic puck, the S Pen will not work at all. The camera bump looks awesome, and this is just the best way for the camera setup on the S24 Ultra. More than enough protection, especially in the corners. A tier. Ringke has a bunch of cases available for the S24 Ultra, like always. Let's start off with the Onyx. They've given the camera bump a little upgrade in that they've increased the height of the hard plastic on there, which still boasts that design the way you minimalist case lovers like it, but it also does actually have value. Awesome clicky buttons the way you're used to with Ringke, and that slimmed down portion on the sides where you grip the phone is just as good as previously. No sharp or unpolished bits and pieces other than the rings on the camera bump, but you aren't going to touch that anyway. Very affordable too. B tier. The Fusion Bold. This one is the Onyx but with a clear back basically. The only major difference is the camera bump, which does look better this way. Because the camera bump does not have any added rings for protection, it doesn't feel sharp at all. But it's still protected very well with the P-shaped design. With the clear back, you would expect a smudgy back within an hour, and that's indeed the case here too. But funny enough, it's grippier than the Onyx for some reason. The finish on the frosted is less grippy though, I'm not sure why that is. A tier. Then the clear cases, the Fusion and Fusion Matte. The matte feels like plastic on the back, much slippier than the silicone case that is the regular Fusion. Still, the sides of both of these are silicone, which make them grippy alright. They also both have these little feet on the back, which will reduce wobble, which is cool, and I love tiny details like that. You can see just how much protection there really is with these clear cases. Because, like you've already guessed, you can see through them. My point being, these are only $14.99 and they have amazing protection for that money. C tier. Then my favorite one, and actually one of the first videos I did on YouTube, the Fusion X case. Black with a clear back and semi-clear back with the camo pattern. Both look awesome. These are very well protected. You'll find that in the extreme corner protection, the sunken camera bump, and the fact that all buttons have a rugged design to it. I love that. The buttons all have a different pattern, so you can easily find them without looking too. A tier. And lastly, the silicone case. I fell in love with these on the S24 Ultra and even with the iPhone 15 Pro. Here though, even though black was the color I wanted for this case, I can see now why they didn't do it before. It's a dust and dirt magnet. The black color doesn't do this case justice. The material is still very good and I like the overall idea still, but here is just too dirty looking most of the time. It's very grippy though, and I love that. But the more you touch this one, the dirtier it gets. So this case only works if you choose a light color, and don't get the black one whatever you do. C tier. I've mentioned Magbak so many times already, by now I hope you believe what I'm saying. Awesome this year too. Mentioned this case in both my top 5 and my top 10, and is getting a good rating here too. It's sleek, has a very comfortable material which is silicone-like, with awesome rounding to the sides which make the phone feel very comfortable to hold. The camera bump on this one is very sleek, minimalist, but still offers protection because the camera is sunken in there a little. It still offers a snug fit with it too, but most importantly, you will find a very strong setup of MagSafe magnets along with support magnets that perfectly go along with their own line of accessories. S tier. Lastly, I also checked out the Ghostek cases. Previously, the Atomic Slim was one of my favorites, and even though I still love the design and especially the material choice, being aluminium on the sides, all I can think of now is the fact that it was uncomfortable while holding it with my pinky finger as the support. It's all because of the extremely deep USB-C port, which looks great, but it just isn't comfortable. They should have tested it out first, instead of getting it out there as fast as possible. If they would have polished that up, you would have created my absolute favorite case. Good fit, your phone will never slip out, but is relatively easily removed as well. Put this one in C tier for its build quality and looks. The covert is the cheaper brother, I guess. Ghostek was kind enough to send over the cases, but I'm not sure what they were thinking when sending over a pink and gold case. Maybe they didn't like my previous video. Anyway, whatever you do, don't get this colorway. The fit is very good, very easy to get off the phone and even easier to remove. I've tested this one extensively and came to the conclusion that even though it deforms easily, it's not coming off. On the front though, there is once again titanium visible. Here it doesn't look as intentional as with the previous case though, especially at the top, not a straight line. Buttons are clicky and have a little resistance to them in a good way, so that you're actually pressing a button. Sides are very grippy due to the material, but also the pattern. D tier. Lastly, the Nautical, and don't get it mixed up with the Nautical Slim, because I didn't got sent that one. Now, normally I would just get that one myself, but it wasn't available in my country at the time. Now, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I guess my review of that one on the iPhone 15 Pro was accurate here too. Anyway, the fit is really good, easy to install, even though a very bulky case. Even easier than the Otterbox Defender. Because of the rubber sides, it feels like it could take a beating for sure. Also very grippy because of that. The front is protected with this plastic front, which doesn't feel as strong as a screen protector, but that doesn't mean that it's not durable at all. I think this one is a very solid choice if you want full protection. The case offers protection up to 20 feet deep for 1 hour of swimming with watertight seals. B tier. And that's a wrap. Do you agree with my choices? Let me know in the comments.